How's it going, everybody? Hope you're doing good. I know I'm doing good because I have this Benchmade 940. So for today's video, we are going to talk about my 3 months of owning this knife and my impressions and my thoughts on what I think about the Benchmade 940. If you could please subscribe and like Rocky Mountain EDC if you enjoy this video and would like to see more content. So first off, the Benchmade 940 in its own right is a very popular and very, wouldn't say old, but it's been around for at least 20 years or so by now. So this knife is definitely a very popular and well-known, established everyday carry knife in the knife community and in everyday carry gear and knives. It is definitely well known, and I had recently purchased this Benchmade 940, just the classic green aluminum and S30V blade steel. And I've been using it for about 3 months now. And I'll tell you my honest opinions, but long story short, this is a great knife. And it is, in all ways that I believe, leads up to the hype that's around it. And I definitely see myself carrying this for a very long time. But before I get into how I've handled it, how it's held up, and some of the pros and the cons of this knife, just going to give some quick information on it and some quick comparisons in terms of how it looks in size, in terms of profile compared to other popular knives as well. So again, this Benchmade 940, developed by Benchmade Knife Company and designed by Warren Osborne. So the individual who designed the knife a really long time ago, and this model, this design actually came out in the early 2000s. So it's been out for a very long time. Again, it has this, the handle scales are green anodized aluminum. It is full covered back, so there are not any barrel spacers. It has a full back spacer in it, so that is beneficial if you do have the knife closed and you don't want anything like your keys or any other materials coming in and scratching the blade through an open construction. So for example, an open construction on something like the Benchmade Bug Out has these barrel spacers. The knife is, again, nested inside and well protected, but there is the slight chance that something small like a key or coin or anything that is thin enough to get through there could hit the blade and actually damage it a bit. So me personally, I don't have an objection to barrel spacers in an open back construction. I also don't have any problems with a closed back construction. I know that some individuals say that this is harder to clean. I don't really think it's any harder to clean than an open back construction design. Again, getting something like a Q-tip or even just a microfiber cloth and folding it, you can easily get in there and clean any gunk or dirt or dust. Anything that's going to build up in there, you can easily get that out. I don't see any problems with it. Again, the handle material, even though it is aluminum and it is anodized, is actually very grippy, surprisingly. I don't know what Benchmade does with their aluminum, but it's actually quite grippy. So you would think that typically in aluminum construction, you think, it's this metallic material, it's probably pretty slippery, especially if you get cheaper made knives that have aluminum handle scales. They typically are painted over, or they have some type of cheap painting. These are actually anodized, so they actually are going to retain this color versus being painted over. So that's very nice. But again, very grippy, and actually, surprisingly, this aluminum is more grippy than Benchmade's G10, which on this Benchmade Freak is G10 handle scales, and this is actually more slick than this aluminum, which was actually honestly a surprise when I first got this knife. So that was actually a pleasant surprise. I personally love that it has that kind of texture to it. It's kind of a very fine, gritty, grainy texture. So again, handle construction, very good in terms of the materials, and it has this nice pop of color, purple, anodized titanium backspacer, which personally goes very nicely with the green. And I personally love just that pop of color on there. It makes it look really good. A standard Benchmade pocket clip is on here, not deep carry. So again, there is going to be a portion sticking out of your pocket. Nothing too crazy, especially because this knive's profile is very thin. So I don't have any problems with this bit sticking out of my pocket, as opposed to something like Spyderco. Again, very similar, but there's a lot more material sticking out. So if you do want to have more of a concealed type design with that carry on the pocket clip, then this would not be as great of an option for that. But I think even with this standard pocket clip, it would be still okay. I don't think it would be too bad, but you can replace and get some aftermarket or Benchmade's deep carry pocket clips if you didn't like that. So if you wanted to switch out and put on something like this mini deep carry pocket clip from the Benchmade Bug Out, you could do that, and I'm sure it would look very well and perform very well on the Benchmade 940. Again, moving on to the blade, standard thumb studs to open it, Benchmade logo, and it is in S30V. So again, S30V blade steel is going to be very well balanced. So it's not going to be extremely amazing in every single category, but it's going to be pretty decent in edge retention, corrosion resistance, toughness, and sharpenability. So you should be able to have an edge that holds decently well. It's not going to corrode on you as easily as something like D2 or M4. And it's going to be pretty decently manageable to sharpen. It's not going to be super easy to sharpen like 8CR13 MOV or 14C28N, but it is going to be pretty decent compared to things like MagnaCut or even other steels out there that have harder abilities to sharpen. So this is going to be very well balanced in terms of that respect. Again, I personally love this blade shape. So Benchmade calls this a reverse Tonto design. So again, really looking at the tip, it's almost as if like a standard Tonto design, this part up here, if this was a sharpened portion, like this was the cutting edge, that is similar to what a Tonto would be. So you'd have a sharp edge right here, a point, and then a sharp edge right here. So it's kind of a reversed Tonto. So we have the blade edge down here. Okay, but again, this design makes this very good for piercing. They actually have a built-in kind of swell towards the tip, so you actually have a very strong tip and just a little bit of belly right here. So you have enough belly to where it's not completely straight, but it's not overly done like something on the Super Freak. So again, great blade material. In my opinion, all very well rounded, great for everyday carry needs. Not going to be super great in every single category, but it's going to be very well rounded. And again, the blade shape, very nice. I've seen some videos of people saying that because it is a little bit thicker behind the edge, so behind the edge it actually gets thicker as it goes back, and it is also a very narrow or very short in terms of the height from blade to the back of the edge, compared to something that's very tall, like in the Benchmade Freak, or even in the Spyderco Paramilitary 2. So very short in terms of that blade to spine of the blade, very thin, and also because they went with a thicker design, some people have complained that the sliciness of this knife is not on par. Again, I don't think that this knife was going for sliciness. It wasn't going to be designed to be the best slicer in terms of ease of slicing. Okay, something like the Spyderco Paramilitary 2 has a very thin design behind the edge, very tall, so there's a lot of blade material, so you're able to get a very thin area behind the edge. So this passes through things like cardboard, paper, any light materials very smoothly. Does this pass through as smoothly as something like the Spyderco Paramilitary 2? No. But in all reality, that doesn't really matter in my opinion. It still cuts through those materials. Again, this is a well-rounded EDC knife that's meant to be used for pretty much any task. It can hold up to pretty tough abuse, again, with the axis lock. So again, that axis lock is going to be pretty strong as long as those Omega springs are holding up. The handle material, this aluminum, is going to be very strong and hold up. The pocket clip is good. The blade itself, being thicker behind the edge and having a thicker tip, is going to withstand light prying tasks or anything where you're going through a tough material. You can have assurance that the tip is not going to break off. Again, this is a kind of all-around knife. It's going to be able to get the job done. It's slim enough to be an easy carry, but strong enough to withstand even harder tasks than what you might do during a normal day. So in terms of the Benchmade knives that I have, I would kind of classify this in between the Benchmade Super Freak and the Benchmade Bug Out. So again, the Benchmade Super Freak, very robust, very strong knife, very big, very tough. Benchmade Bug Out, very light, thin design, very slicey, very easy to carry, very thin. And then we have the Benchmade 940, which is going to be kind of somewhere in between. And me personally, having owned and carried this for over a year, and having carried and owned this for over 3 years, I would say that the 940 kind of hits that sweet spot for me. So it's light enough, but strong enough at the same time. So again, this knife has not left my pocket since I have acquired it, and it is great for every task that I need it for. Again, I'm not going out and I'm not beating on it in the woods or trying to use it like a hatchet or a hammer, or even a chisel or a scraper or a screwdriver. However, I do think that in some small cases or circumstances, it could hold up to those tasks. But nonetheless, it is a great knife for pretty much any task you need it to do. Smooth design, easy opening, great placement in the hand, fits my hand very well. I would say that I have medium-sized hands, so I would say that this fits my medium-sized hands very well. Good jimping on the spine. Good jimping on the front kind of finger choil resting area right here. So very good design. It almost feels like it was designed to be held and used for everyday use and long periods of time for EDC tasks. So great overall knife, highly recommend it. Again, just a beautiful, beautiful knife. Can hold up to a lot of tough tasks. I don't feel any doubt that putting this through its paces, cutting zip ties, chiseling off bits of wood, cutting through cardboard, doesn't matter. I feel that this pocket knife can withstand up to the task for everyday carry for most of my needs. Highly recommend it for sure. Benchmade 940. So thank you for watching, and if you enjoyed this video and like to see more like this, please leave a comment, like, and subscribe. Thanks. Checking out Rocky Mountain EDC.